Do you ever get into this mode to where you feel like you need to prove to other people that things are different than the way they're being portrayed? And what I mean is, are you trying to show people that you're doing better than maybe you really are, or you're financially more secure than you really are, or that things are not bothering you and not affecting you the way that maybe they really are, or maybe the way that you're being portrayed? Now, this is an easy trap to get into, especially when you're dealing with your ex, because you don't want them to think or feel that they really have anything over on you, or that they're winning, right? I mean, effectively, it's about winning. The problem with this mindset, and I'm speaking of this from experience, is that you can get to the point to where you are so focused on proving to the other person that you're doing good that you actually end up hurting yourself in the process. Now, this happened to me. I'm trying to remember. It was like maybe the second or third year into it. It was around the time where the ex found out. Oh, it was after I was going out with Debbie. The ex found out that I was dating somebody, tried to turn me into child support services for being a deadbeat dad. And, they were just harpooning me. And I got this bright idea in my head that I'm not going to let her know that she got a good major blow in, because she did get a good major blow in. I also didn't understand how child support services works. So when they told me that I was $900 in arrears and that they were going to take $250 out a month, I figured that 4 paychecks and it'd be over. I was wrong. I was wrong on that. Anyways, so what I ended up doing in the course of that is I did some things and bought some things just to drive the point home that your stupid little games do not have an effect on me. Now, the problem with that is that you can overextend yourself and get yourself into trouble. And I had a 2-part failure on my part. The first thing is I had a fundamental misunderstanding of how the Department of Child Support Services actually operates. In my mind, $900 in arrears, you take out $250, 4 paychecks, $1,000, you're done. What I didn't realize is the way they calculate it is by the month, and the way I get paid is every other week. So that typically I was running short every month, except for the 2 months in a year where I got two paychecks, and that's where not overages, but that's where it would get current. So whenever the button was hit on this, I was already in the arrears status, so to speak. They added the extra number on there, so all the money was going towards the monthly bill, not for the arrearages. What that meant is that whenever those 4 paychecks were done, they weren't done. And they continued to take money out up to, I think, another $1,000. And around the time where everything evened up is whenever, then it stopped. And they ultimately did pay me back some of that money, but it was a really, really, really tough time. It was during the summer. Where I live, electricity and air conditioning goes through the roof during the summer, especially when you have kids at the house, running the air conditioning all the time. I still think I had kids in, I don't know if both my girls were in after programs or summer camp programs or not, but it was tough. And the second part of this is that I assumed the ex was going to get a job at some point. So I was like, okay, so if I can overextend, she's going to get a job, child support's going to come down, all that stuff, and I'll be able to recoup sooner. As you guys know, I'm 6 years into this, and she's still not working. Now, granted, some kid, one of my first child has turned 18 and graduated high school, is in college now, so I'm not paying on him. Next year, the next one drops off and stuff. So, anyways. Bottom line is, I thought that this was going to go down differently. So in my attempt to prove to the ex that her shenanigans and games weren't really impacting me, I put myself even into more of a financial pickle than I really anticipated. This further got complicated the following year after I sued her for small claims court for medical bills, and then she did the end run around on the retirement plan, and I had to come up with a bunch of money, which I'm still paying on actually, for the attorney to fight that. That also drove things down. Okay, so my point is, I would have been much better served if I was focusing on the future and focusing on keeping things as stable as possible and not incurring more debt. Had I done that, the position I'm in right now would be a hell of a lot better, a lot more stable, and effectively I would have more money now than I had before. I mean, and technically I still have more money now, so things are actually they're going okay, but it would be significantly better, and I would have a lot more flexibility to do things that had I not made some of those decisions. This is really important because a lot of times, especially whenever you're dealing with your ex, you want to just kind of rub it back in their face that you are doing perfectly fine without them. You're happy, life is good, and all that kind of stuff. Now, what I've since realized, and I've talked about in other videos, is the problem is that if you have a toxic narcissistic ex, it provokes them. And that creates a whole nother set of problems. Either they try all kinds of different things. Either it's, for the most part, all the ex really did on my part is, unleash child support services against me. Hasn't done any more court stuff, but there's been a few things that have been a direct result of me trying to prove to her that I'm doing okay. Now I don't do it, right? I don't go out of my way to try to like, hey, look what I got, or anything like that. I'm sure, I don't know if the kids say anything to her. I'm sure she knows some things, but for the most part, I keep my interactions into a point to where I'm not doing that. I am not like just jumping up and down and waving and going, hey, everything's great. It's much better than you or whatever. It doesn't accomplish anything. The thing I want to say on this, or the thing I want to really drive home is and there's a caveat to this, and I'll get to this in a second, but if you can find your peace with where you're at and not get in that game, you'll be much better off. It's really hard. It's hard to let go. It's hard to release the anger and the frustration that you have with your ex for everything that's happened. But it's really important because, and I've gotten to this point now, but it's really important because when you get to that point, you're not worried about what they're getting away with. You're not worried about what they're doing. You're not worried about maybe how they're manipulating the system. You don't care because you're focused on you and your future with your kids. That one's a tough one too, because there was a period of time where when I would look at that and I would see all the things that I wasn't going to be able to do, it would trigger an anger response that I've since been able to get control on. And that leaves me with the final part on this, is that the caveat is you have to do what's right for you, right? And what I mean is unfortunately, when I was back at that point, I wasn't in the mental space to be able to see this and to be able to feel this. So lashing out and rubbing some of this in my ex's face was important to me at the time. I wish I wouldn't have done it. It didn't help me on anything. I wish I would have been more financially prudent in the decisions I was making, because it really would make the situation better now than it was. Now, I do have a caveat, another little caveat, a secondary caveat, and that is that I really did make my peace with this a while back before I started this channel. And I was saving money and I was doing things to really get my bills under control. And I had a plan to be at this point to where I was going to be able to pay a bunch of stuff off. And that when I got to the point that my middle daughter graduates and drops off child support, I would be able to do stuff like pay off my car, pay off a bunch of bills, take the money from her, and just do a bunch of different things. The caveat is I went full in on the YouTube thing. And so I don't think I made a mistake, but financially I made some decisions that have pushed that plan way back. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed that it's all going to work out, and I think it will, but That's a little caveat on stuff, and it's not necessarily related to this, but it's just, you know, part of it is when you get tied in with the emotional side of this, you're making decisions to try to deal with the emotional crap with your ex. And then the other part with what I was just doing, it was just a project. I mean, I feel really passionate about this, so I did that. I just wanted to throw that in there just because I know I talk some issues of money sometime, but I did have a handle on that for a while, and I just kind of doubled down on the YouTube thing. So on that, I hope that might give you an opportunity to think if you're in that process like I was a few years back, where I was leaning forward thinking, well, you know, the sport's going to go down, she'll get a job, you know, all these different things are going to happen. So I thought the timelines were different. Just expect that it's going to be the way it is for a long period of time, that anything that they can do to make your life easier, they're not going to do. And that's okay. Just leverage off where you're at now, because then as things change in the future, you'll be better able to leverage off of the positive things you're doing to really have a better situation. I'm not sure if that really made sense. You let me know in the comments below what you think on that. So on that, I'm going to wrap this video up, and I will chat with you on the next video. Take care.